So, Courtney, thank you for the suggestion of sharing some of my personal story. So I thought it's too long for one video. So I will share a little bit about how I got started in this industry, how I got started in mortgages. So I started temping at a mortgage company. So first I was a temp, meaning, temporary employee. I got an assignment to go, and at the time it was a big bank, and my job was very simple. It was to pull flood certifications. That's all I did all day. It was on a big device, like an old gaming system, where I had to input the address, and then it had kind of the dot matrix printer, printed out the results, and then I believe I either put it in a basket or I gave it to the person that had asked for the flood certification. So that's how I started. I didn't even really understand what I was doing. It's just they said, put in this address, print out the results, and give it to the person that asked for it. So I didn't read the reports. I didn't know what flood certifications were. I didn't know what flood insurance was. I just knew I was at a mortgage company and I was printing out reports. And that was pretty much it. I worked there, I don't know. I might have worked there maybe a week. I think I was filling in for someone that was on vacation. The next call I got, I don't know if it was right away, but I got a call following that assignment asking me, hey, do you have experience in mortgage? And so I said, yeah, I've worked in a mortgage office before. So I didn't tell them what I did, but they immediately gave me another mortgage office assignment. So I, started at that place, and that place is where I actually ended up staying for a long time. At that company, I was assigned the task of verifying employment over the phone. I was to call people's employer. I think you either had to go online and look at it something like Google or 411.com. So you had to make sure the business was legitimate. So if they worked at, XYZ company, you would go to the internet and say, okay, XYZ company on, Glen Oaks Boulevard, let me see what that phone number is, and then call that phone number and verify that the person worked there. And the reason why you couldn't just call the number on the application is at that time, people might just give out their friend's number and say, hey, if somebody calls, then just say I work here. So my first job was pulling flood certifications. My second job was verifying employment. Here's kind of my nugget of lesson wrapped up in this story. I'll get there somewhere, right? Somehow, somewhere, anytime they ask for basically a volunteer, I raised my hand and said, I'll do it, even if I didn't know how to do something. So when I first started at, Countrywide, my second temp assignment, and they said, hey, do you know how to verify employment? I said, no, I don't know how to do it. But, you show me and I'll pick it up real quick and we can move on from here. As I stayed there, so I was a temporary employee for, I don't know, I think a good part of a year. As I learned more things, I would just volunteer for more things. So I remember one day the operations manager said, hey, so the operation manager herself had been processing all of the FHA loans because they didn't have anyone that knew how to process FHA loans. And at that time, you could have specialist processors. So you might have an FHA processor or a VA loan processor. So they said, we need an FHA processor. So that way it takes work off of the operations manager. And I said, okay, I'll learn to be an FHA processor. So it was just opportunities like that where I would raise my hand and say, I'll learn this. And then even if I felt like I didn't get enough training, I just dove in. So I dove in, I asked a lot of questions. I found somebody that would maybe know more than me. So that whether that was interviewing underwriters or finding people outside even my office. If I found another loan processor that worked at another company and they knew how to do FHA loans, then I'm going to call them, or I'm going to go visit their office, or I'm going to take them to lunch and I'm going to try to find out more information. As much as there is online, there's a lot of information online now, as opposed to when I got started in the industry, which was back in 2000. I know I'm old. since there is a lot of information out there, and depending on your learning style, I'm someone that likes to learn from another person as opposed to always just reading something. And I like to be able to ask that person questions. So whether it's getting on a Zoom call or sending a list of questions, like emailing a list of questions to a person and saying, hey, you can just like video answer me back, or can we get on a Zoom call real quick and you can answer all these questions for me. I like to learn by someone else's experience instead of just reading a manual about something. So I started out that way, like very tactile, by pulling reports and learning how to talk to people on the phone. And from there, anytime there was an opportunity to learn something new, or especially if someone was volunteering to teach something, I would just raise my hand and say, yeah, I want to learn that, or I've never done that before, but I'm willing to give it a try. Sometimes, a lot of times in this industry, whether you're a loan officer or you're assisting a loan officer or you're a loan processor, you'll have greater success if you step outside your comfort zone. If you kind of jump in the pool and you're not sure if you're going to sink or swim, you'll actually learn more that way than reading a bunch of things or feeling like you have to prepare for a long period of time before you can try something. Hopefully that inspires you to try something new, learn something new, and I'm here if you want to use me as a resource.